Well, the PS5 Pro is finally upon us, and I don't know about you guys, but this was one of the presentations I've ever seen. Absolutely one of the presentations. By the end of it, Mark Cerny had thoroughly convinced me with his fantastic rhetoric and presentation skills that I absolutely do not need a PS5 Pro. But let's get into it. So, the big selling points of the PS5 Pro come in the form of a bigger GPU, advanced ray tracing, and AI upscaling. Essentially all ways to make your games look better. And yeah, that's pretty cool, I guess. But when you go back and watch the demo videos they showed, it's just not very interesting, is it? Graphical fidelity has reached a point where better is very nearly subjective at this point. Even other features like Wi-Fi 7, better VR performance, and the 2TB SSD are all nice. But I mean, we've got to talk about the price tag. At $700 US, it's not even a hard sell, it's a straight up pass for a lot of people, especially when you consider the PS5 Pro is digital only, meaning it comes with no disk drive, but you can buy one separately, of course. Oh, and you can also buy a fancy stand separately because money, I guess. And look, I know Cerny said the GPU can render graphics 45% faster, but that's a big number that absolutely did not appear visible at all during the presentation. So until the PS5 Pro is out and in the wild and we can confirm that 45% number, it's all just promises in the wind. Fortunately, we only have to wait until November 7th to see if Sony's promises are more than just hot air. Even so, if you want the full PS5 Pro experience, that is the console, disk drive, a second DualSense controller, and the stand, you're looking at paying around $885 USD. Oh, and by the way, Sony has raised the price of the DualSense controller by $5 up from 70 to 75 USD now. So, yep. In any case, you can get a very competent PC that can not only game, but do everything a PC can for that kind of money. And I know not everyone wants to be a PC gamer, and that's fine. But I think we can all agree that $700 is nuts, much less 885. RIP Australian friends. And of course Sony's gonna jack up the price. I mean, why wouldn't they? With Microsoft all but bowing out of the console war, why wouldn't Sony take advantage of the situation? This is a consequence of a lack of competition. Just like Microsoft is greedily raising Game Pass prices, making the base tier useless and trying to force people into the ultimate tier, Sony's doing the exact same thing, just with their hardware rather than their software. Obviously, everyone has their own financial situation, budget, and responsibilities, so spend your hard-earned cash as you will, but just know what you're buying. At the moment, there are only around 40 to 50 games even confirmed to be enhanced for the PS5 Pro by the time of launch. Bad pricing scheme and value aside, there is one feature of the PlayStation 5 Pro that's genuinely compelling, at least to me, and that's Sony's PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, or PSSR. Like Nvidia's DLSS, PlayStation's version hopes to use AI upscaling to crispen up images while providing a performance boost to boot. And as someone still rocking a 2070 Super, DLSS allows me to play some games that I otherwise would struggle to run. So if those sorts of performance gains can be implemented into the PlayStation ecosystem, that's actually something useful. Is it worth $700 or more? For me, not by a long shot, but maybe it is for you. But if a $700 console is a bit out of your range, you'll be pleased to learn that Sony is about to start selling refurbished PS5s for about $100 off. All certified refurbished products come with the necessary accessories, cables, and manuals. All PlayStation certified refurbished products are packaged in its own branded certified refurbished packaging and will be sent to you with the 1-day express or 2-day standard shipping options available on PlayStation Direct. These refurbished consoles will also come with a 12-month warranty, which is the same as buying brand new, so all in all, not a bad deal from the looks of it. While we're talking about Sony, we've got to briefly discuss the Concord and Destiny 2 situation, as these stories are the gift that keeps on giving, even if we'd rather they stop.
Stop! Stop! He's already dead!
As of September 6th, Concord is officially offline, seemingly forever. Some reports estimate that only 25,000 copies of the game were sold, and it goes without saying that's just really, really bad, shockingly bad. Most analysts that I've seen online, they seem to blame an oversaturated live service market, poor marketing and strategic decisions, as well as an unrealistic price point as the primary causes for Concord's spectacular failure. On top of that, Concord is being completely scrubbed from PSN accounts, as if Sony wants nothing more than to erase it from existence and pretend this fiasco never happened. So, for those 2,000 or so folks that have signed a petition to bring it back, I wouldn't hold your breath. However, for the dozens of true fans out there, you'll be pleased to hear that Secret Level, the animated gaming anthology series coming to Prime Video, plans to keep their Concord episode in the show. So who knows? If the episode gets enough attention, maybe something will happen. But again, I would not hold your breath. Concord may be done and dusted, but Destiny 2 is fighting on the best it can. After being dumpstered by the inept and out-of-touch Bungie leadership, the developers are doing what they can to pick up the pieces and move forward. To that end, they've announced a new content strategy, and while it's a far cry from Destiny 3, it is a lifeline to the flagging Destiny player base, which dips to an all-time concurrent player low this month. In a nutshell, the new content strategy includes 2 mid-sized expansions a year, with 4 updates planned per year to roughly coincide with the spring, summer, fall, and winter. Up on the screen here, you can see Projects Apollo and Behemoth are the first 2 expansions coming next year, and they will each start a new season in the game. As for the game's story content, game director Tyson Green has said Bungie is currently exploring non-linear campaigns similar to Dreaming City or Metroidvanias, and even more unusual formats like roguelikes or survival shooters. Green says Destiny 2's new expansion plans give the team a new opportunity to try something different, although he insists departing from the one-shot campaigns doesn't mean we are turning away from great storytelling. So here's to hoping that a smaller, tight-knit team can come together and create a fun and engaging experience for the Destiny community. Maybe something good can come of this absolute mess. Lastly, this one's only tangentially related to Sony, but I'm going to stick it here anyway. Simon Parkin, a writer and contributor to The New Yorker among various other credits, hosted former Sony PlayStation boss Chris Deering on his podcast, My Perfect Console. During the interview, Deering had the gall to suggest corporate greed isn't the reason for the mass layoffs, which, to be fair, he's not wrong. It's corporate greed and massively incompetent leaders such as himself that are the reasons for the layoffs. But this brazenly out-of-touch statement wasn't the worst of it. Oh no, Deering seems to think that the laid-off game devs should just get over it. Move to a cheap place, spend a year on the beach, drive an Uber or something. It's so outrageous it sounds fake, but here is a brief clip of the interview. Listen for yourself.
I think it's probably very painful for the managers, but I don't think that having skill in this area is going to be a lifetime, of poverty or limitation. It's still where the action is, and it's like the pandemic. But now you're going to have to take figure out how to get through it. Drive an Uber or whatever. Go off to the beach, find a cheap place to live, and go to the beach for a year.
Imagine being so out of touch with reality that you think normal people can just spend a year relaxing on the beach, or that driving an Uber provides enough money to live on, much less raise a family. Gamers, you want to know why the games industry is in the state it's in? It's because of people like this guy. People with so much money that they literally have no idea what life is like for 99% of us. Absolutely astounding. But hey, Sony's not the only company courting drama this week, as Ubisoft has been called out by one of its minority investors, Slovakian hedge fund AJ Investments. Although AJ Investments controls less than 1% of Ubisoft, minority shareholders make up around 70% of Ubisoft's controlling interests, and according to AJ Investments, they've spoke with other minority holders and they think they have enough clout to challenge Tencent and the Guillemot family, which currently control a little over 25% of Ubisoft. The open letter comes on the heels of a 40% drop in Ubisoft's stock prices since the beginning of the year, with a full 50% decline over the past 12 months. These declines also continue the trend of falling Ubisoft stock prices since 2021. But just what is AJ Investments wanting Ubisoft to do? Oh, not a lot. Just take the company private, sell or restructure various minority investors, lay off employees, refocus on primary IPs like Assassin's Creed and the Rainbow Six franchise, and last, maybe think about getting rid of CEO Yves Guillemot. That last one I'm particularly fond of. Now, whether or not this sort of large-scale restructuring is likely to happen or not is another story. The real story here is the accusation AJ Investments has leveled at the Guillemot family and Tencent. AJ Investments seems to think that the Guillemot brothers, the company owned by Ubisoft's founders, is purposefully discounting potential value of Ubisoft in order to buy more shares at lower valuation and eventually take full control of the company. Or, as Rock Paper Shotgun puts it, AJ Investment believes Tencent and the Guillemot family are keeping the share price low so that they can scoop up shares on the cheap and eventually take full control of Ubisoft. While he doesn't say that it's a deliberate part of the strategy, Krupa suggests that delaying games is beneficial for Tencent and the Guillemots on this count. I'm not a financial analyst, but it is worth remembering that Tencent bought a 5% stake of Ubisoft in early 2018 and a 49.9% stake in Guillemot Brothers Ltd in 2022. This €300 million deal was made when Ubisoft shares were valued at €80. And just a year later, the Guillemot Brothers Ltd turned around and bought 4 million shares in Ubisoft for only $19 per share. A fair bit of a drop from the previous year's €80 valuation, eh? This bit of financial drama is being played out on the back of Star Wars Outlaws reportedly underperforming and not meeting sales targets, as well as X-Defiant's struggle to maintain a workable player base. Regardless of Ubisoft's next move, it's pretty clear something is going to have to give, and when it does, I'll let you know how it shakes out. Oh, and one last bit of Ubisoft news before we move on. The Crew 2 and the Crew Motorfest will be getting official offline modes. When the Crew 1 was shut down last April, it kicked off a storm of internet unrest, with Ross Scott leading the charge with their Stop Killing Games campaign. Apparently, Ubisoft does not care to repeat the outrage going forward. Ross Scott replied to the announcement saying, "The Crew 2 plus Motorsports is getting an offline mode. Hopefully this is in response to consumer agencies in multiple countries investigating the legality of them disabling TC1, which was sold as a one-time purchase with no stated expiration date. We'll just have to wait and see if this becomes a trend for some live service games going forward, or if it's just a one-off." You may be able to play the Crew games once they go offline, but I'll tell you what you won't be playing, at least if you're a standard tier Game Pass subscriber, and that is Starfield, Diablo 4, and over 40 other games. That's right, Microsoft's new, more expensive, nerfed version of Game Pass Standard is now available, and they've somehow doubled down on making it even worse by pulling the aforementioned games, making them only available to Ultimate tier subscribers. And remember, just a few weeks ago, Microsoft announced that it could take 12 or more months for day one releases on the Ultimate tier to eventually trickle down to the Standard tier. Not sure what everyone expected, but at this point it feels like Microsoft is just taunting the FTC. Here's hoping the next time the FTC goes after them, they use more competent lawyers. And in separate but related news, Night Studios' narrative adventure Oxenfree will be delisted from itch.io permanently. In an email, Night School says that Oxenfree will no longer be available to download on itch.io starting from October 1st. This isn't one of those delistings where you can still download the game if you've bought it either. On October 1st, Oxenfree is gone for good from itch.io. No reason for the delisting has been given, nor is there any reason to expect further delistings. This one just kind of came out of nowhere, so rip itch.io buyers, I guess. That sucks. Hey, remember when more than 340,000 people signed a petition to pressure Valve into fixing the botting problem in Team Fortress 2? Well, gamers have made sure that Valve definitely won't be forgetting. A book complete with all 340,000 signatures, compiled by internet denizen The What, the mind behind the Save TF2 campaign, has made its way to Valve HQ. No doubt the book will be venerated as a symbol of what gamers can do when they band together, or as some gamers are saying, Valve will use it for toilet paper. And in an inevitable development, Deadlock, Valve's liminal MOBA shooter, already has a cheater problem, because what else did we expect? Aimbotting, bullet bending, and wall hacking are ruining the fun for some players of the ongoing Friends and Family beta. While cheaters are always annoying, I say bring it on. Give Valve as much data as possible on potential exploits, so maybe when the game fully releases, they'll have a leg up on the ever-expanding arms race against botters. Deadlock may still be cooking, but Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 is finally out in the wild, and it seems to be quite a success. As of September 10th, the game has a peak player count of over 225,000, mostly positive reviews on Steam, and a strong rating over on OpenCritic. Not to mention, it's already the best-selling game of any Warhammer title, with more than 2 million global players so far. Game Rant's Jake Fillery scored Space Marine 2 with a 4.5 out of 5 stars, saying, "Even without knowing the lore around Warhammer 40,000, Space Marine 2 does a great job of inviting new fans into the franchise by showing the unwavering courage, sacrifice, and devotion of these super soldiers, but that doesn't mean things are dumbed down to disrespect diehard fans. Being a veteran of the franchise isn't essential to the enjoyment of Space Marine 2. While it might further satisfy the experience, the universe is brought to life with such detail that it makes for the perfect gateway for newcomers." While PC gamers Robin Valentine gave it a less glowing 60 out of 100, saying, "Fans of Warhammer 40,000 will be delighted by the spectacle and authenticity, but ultimately disappointed by messy action and unengaging multiplayer." This more mixed take was mirrored by early Steam reviews, which remained at mixed until the early access phase had ended, with many Steam reviewers having problems with the game's optimization and missing PC settings like field of view slider and a mouse sensitivity control. Of the handful of issues some players are experiencing, a few of the more baffling ones are the lack of ultra-wide support, no private PvE lobbies, and players being unable to pick their Marine of choice due to character locks during the selection process. Fortunately, the first two are being addressed in the game's first update, as per Focus Entertainment's recent Steam announcement. As for the character locks, if there were more Marines and playstyles to select from, it likely wouldn't be an issue. I'm thinking of any hero shooter like Overwatch, but considering the limited number of Marine classes, it's a little disappointing that a better system wasn't in place before launch. However, as of this writing, the Steam reviews are back up to 79%, mostly positive, so as launches go, Space Marine 2 is sitting pretty. Now to find out what comes next for the game and the franchise as a whole. Space Marine 2 may be doing well, but unfortunately all is not well in the bug-stomping genre of shooters. After yet another poorly received Helldivers II patch last month, Arrowhead have committed to a 60-day improvement plan, and later this month, we'll see the first fruits of that labor. But it'll take more than a solid patch or two to win back a lot of Helldivers, as this is what, the third or fourth time now that the developers have had to backtrack on their design philosophy due to players loudly disagreeing with those designs. But maybe they'll get it right this time. The patch, which is scheduled to come out September 17th, is reworking armor penetration values in the hopes of buffing around 30 weapons and stratagems, while also overhauling select enemies to make them more rewarding to kill. Likewise, some weapons are getting straight up buffed to hopefully give some better loadout variety to the game. No doubt more changes will be implemented over the next month or so, but until Arrowhead releases, 5 or 6 patches in a row without once again nerfing player fun into the ground, it'll be hard for a lot of Helldivers to believe in the dream. Hopefully the developers find their stride and hit a happy update cadence soon. On the other side of the coin, Baldur's Gate 3 fans are so pleased with Larian Studios that over 3 million people have downloaded the recent patch 7, and more than 1 million have started installing game mods courtesy of said patch. Or as game director Swin Vinke said, modding is pretty big. Yes, it is. The tools are so popular that modders have already broken into the level editor, which opens the door to some truly large-scale mods sometime down the road. The toolkit, which was only made available last week, previously wouldn't let you do any of that due to technical constraints and platform-specific guidelines. But modders neither care nor sleep. It took them just 2 days to worm their way into the dev kit's innards and make the impossible possible. Seeing as how Larian has confirmed they're not working on Baldur's Gate 4, these modding tools represent the closest thing we're likely to get anytime soon, so it's no surprise fans are going hard. As always, we've got a handful of delays and leaks this week, starting with the 2-person dev team behind Bad Ridge Games, who announced via Steam that Mirthwood would be delayed from this month's release until November 6th. The usual polish and optimization reasons were given for the delay, along with some extra time for localization. Mirthwood is a medieval life sim in the same vein as Stardew Valley, but alongside the cozy vibes are the harsh realities of pre-industrial life. Grand Theft Auto 6 is also rumored to be delayed until 2026, but this is being denied by the dev team, so take that for what it is. Until it's confirmed, I wouldn't give it too much thought. In spicier GTA 6 news though, the band Heaven 17 took to Twitter this week to blast Rockstar over their insulting buyout offer. Here's the tweet. It was $7,500 for a buyout of any future royalties from the game. Forever. To put this in context, Grand Theft Auto 6 grossed, wait for it, $8.6 billion. But think of the exposure. Go fuck yourself. Of course, he's referring to GTA 5 and not 6, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't get a little secondhand satisfaction from that virtual middle finger. I'm not familiar with the band, but good on them. I'm not sure this next one counts as a leak, but I'm going to fit it in here anyway. A Facebook page for Sega's Yakuza Wars mobile spin-off game has launched ahead of the official reveal. Not much is known about the game, other than that it seems to be targeting a Chinese market. Twitter user Noble first noticed the page and added that the game may be announced at the upcoming Tokyo Game Show. Sega also had some early footage of the Crazy Taxi and Shinobi remakes leak onto the web as well. While the remakes were teased earlier this year, the leaked footage shows some crispy art and animations for the Shinobi remake, while the Crazy Taxi footage looks exactly like what you'd expect, albeit a little bit less refined given its early state of development. Currently, there is no release window available for either title, so don't get too excited just yet, and as always, everything is subject to change. Space Marine 2 may be the name on everyone's lips this week, but there were a number of great releases to take a look at, including Coffee Stain Studios finally launching Satisfactory 1.0 this week after 5 years of early access. The full 1.0 version comes with a massive update that expands Satisfactory's in-game, as well as adding to most of the other stages in the game's progression, adding some new customization and decoration options, and implementing achievements. Though keep in mind that the achievements are not retroactive, so you'll have to double up and repeat some of the stuff if you're a longtime player. While the 1.0 launch by itself is noteworthy, Coffee Stain was eager to announce the game would be coming to consoles in the future, but we're still waiting on finer details for that. I'll be curious to see how the game plays on a controller, because even with a mouse and keyboard, there is definitely some finickiness to work around. 0 Hour from M7 Productions also launched out of early access this week, and despite a very positive early access period, the tactical shooter is currently sitting at mixed over on Steam. That said, the very positive reviews number over 25,000, with the mixed clocking in about around 240, so take that for what it is. Overall, 0 Hour looks to be a solid take on the old school Rainbow Six formula, if fairly rough around the edges. If you're a fan of something like Void Interactive's Ready or Not, but wish there was a PvP component, you may want to give 0 Hour a look. There are a handful of other notable releases coming this week, but they come out after this video goes live, so we're just going to breeze through them right quick. First up is Marvel vs. Capcom's Fighting Collection, which releases this September 12th. In fact, I think most of these come out on the 12th. Not much needs to be said about this one. It's all the classic fighting games you loved rolled into one big collection. You'll be able to pick it up for the PC, PS4, and Nintendo Switch, with an Xbox One version coming sometime in 2025. Oh, and a physical version of the game is coming sometime this November. We've got another re-release with Lollipop Chainsaw Repop. This is another one that doesn't need much said, but it'll be out on the 12th for the PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and the Switch. While Bastards from developer Blue Manchu is a spiritual successor to Void Bastards and is a roguelike strategy shooter with 13 different characters, multiple weapons, abilities, and progression paths. It's launching the 12th for the PC, PS5, Xbox Series X, and the Switch. Caravan Sandwich is a exploration adventure game from Studio Plain Toast where you go on a journey to locate your missing sister. This one is a pure exploration game with no combat or death mechanics, and it launches the 12th for the PC, PS5, and the Switch. Or if you like your witches with less sand and more greenery, try out Garden Witch Life from developer Freetime Studio. This is a cozy life sim kind of game, so expect all the usual farming and cutesy trappings. It also launches on the 12th for the PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and the Switch. And lastly is Funko Fusion, a somewhat creepy action-adventure game from Tintin Games. In Funko Fusion, you'll dive into 20 well-known franchises with more than 60 unlockable characters. Love them or hate them, Funko Fusion drops on the 13th for the PC, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, with the PS4 and Switch version coming this November. Well, those are some of the releases coming, but what about the reveals? Not a lot caught my attention this week, but here are a few you may be interested in. Starting with one I definitely did not have on my bingo card, Bigfoot Life from Planet 47 Games. That's right, if you've ever wanted to live out a life as the iconic Sasquatch, you'll soon have that dream come true. From the Steam page. Explore the beautiful forest and live your life as Bigfoot. Catch and eat fish, insects, and other creatures. Forage the forest for mushrooms, berries, and more. Build shelters to store your items in to get through the harsh winters. Earn extra points by breaking branches and scaring the wildlife. Acquire new Bigfoot skills like Bigfoot Vision, Speed, Climbing, and Fog. Watch out for human Bigfoot hunters. They'll be trying to find you and photograph you. Steal their items to earn points and complete tasks. Next up is Polyaris from Magic Pie. This one is a first-person survival game that looks to de-emphasize crafting and focus more on the pure survival elements. You'll be battling against the weather, wildlife, and searching for vital resources in this icy wasteland when it launches sometime in the first quarter of 2025 for the PC. Pompeii the Legacy is a city builder, or rather a city rebuilder, I suppose, that takes place 20 years after Mount Vesuvius has left it in ruins. Developer Sissia Games says that the gameplay will be deeply rooted in historical events, offering a campaign that spans over 200 years. If this is your kind of game, you know who you are, you'll be able to pick it up for the PC sometime next year. And lastly, Konami has confirmed that the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 2 is in the works, but left out precisely what games would be included in the collection. Producer Noriaki Okamura acknowledged that the Volume 1 release was a pretty rough launch, and I would say it's still in a pretty rough state, but in any case, Konami seems like they want to avoid that with the Volume 2 release. Another reason for the slower release is due to Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 already having pre-existing HD ports to work from. The next collection will have to do a little more work from the ground up, so naturally it's going to take a little bit more time. That's fine by most of us, I'd wager, so long as they get it right this time. And of course, it's 2024, so any weekly gaming news segment wouldn't be complete without more layoffs and more closures. Lost Boys Interactive, owned by Embracer, naturally, is losing 139 workers spread across 28 US states. The studio is a co-development studio that works with other game devs on their projects, and has worked on games such as Tiny Tina's Wonderland, Diablo 4, and PUBG, among various other games. Unfortunately, Lost Boys has already went through an earlier round of layoffs this January, courtesy of Embracer's staggering incompetence. Merge Games has also announced an undisclosed number of layoffs as well as the complete closure of its Chelford office. The remaining portfolio from Merge Games will be folded into Maximum Entertainment. CEO Christina Seeley gave the usual corporate BS reasoning for the layoffs, but after more than 20,000 games industry workers have lost their jobs in the past couple years, does anyone believe this BS? Because I hope not. And Midnight Society, the devs behind Deadlock, are laying off 50% of their staff due to multiple unexpected challenges. It sucks when anyone loses their livelihood, but if your game is founded on NFT ideals and one of your co-founders is massively controversial, I'm not sure what anyone else expected. Likewise, GameStop continues its brutally slow and agonizing death as its second quarter sales dropped 45%. Unsurprisingly, even more stores are now on the chopping block. Analysts at Wedbush said on Friday, GameStop continues to face a near insurmountable barrier to its planned return to growth as streaming services proliferate, while the company shows a total lack of strategy to enter new categories with growth potential. And yeah, at this point, it's clear the leadership at GameStop, they have other priorities outside of saving their own company. Either that, or they've decided to compete with Embracer for the Most Incompetent Leadership Award. But in some rare industry good news, however, Spiders, the developer behind Greedfall 2 and Still Rising, have secured better pay and working conditions this week. I think this quote from GameDeveloper.com sums up the situation nicely. In a statement sent to Game Developer by Spiders management, the company stood by its previous claim that statements about poor conditions at the company made by the Video Game Workers Union STJV were false and defamatory, before announcing that the studio had negotiated new pay raises and other improved quality of life policies with employees. False and defamatory, but apparently true enough to acquiesce to their demands, eh? And lastly, Nexon, in a surprising if you can't beat 'em, join 'em move, is allowing Mint Rocket, the developer behind Dave the Diver, to split off and go indie. This comes on the heels of multiple key employees leaving Nexon to start their own companies. If Nexon cannot prevent developers from becoming independent, it will instead seek business synergies through investment. It remains to be seen just how independent Mint Rocket will actually be with Nexon's investment. After all, if Nexon decides to pull that investment, will it sink Mint Rocket? If so, that's not really independence, is it? Hey there, thanks for joining me this week. As always, if you made it to the end, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed your stay. For returning viewers, nice to see you. Life unexpectedly got in the way, forcing me to pause my upload schedule for the past 2 weeks, but we're back on track now. So expect the weekly news every Thursday at 11:30 EST, 9:30 PST. And on that note, I hope to see you next week. Stay safe out there. Later.